outside of the institution come in and teach us various interesting things. But we have a lot of talent in the club, and why not let that talent say something about how they represent the club? And they're teachers as well. They're not just artists, they're also teachers. And if they're up here teaching you something, automatically they're a teacher. Certificate. But we have some really important teachers here tonight. 4 of them. Shailesh, Phyllis, Kenny, and Richard. I sent out 2 emails with bios and all that. I'm not going to go through that again. I want them to represent themselves and give you details of what they're doing. But on that table there are 4 books that Richard has brought tonight. I would like you to at least look through them and purchase them if you like. The books, in essence, I worked on that book with Richard, and that was a lot of fun. That project was really wonderful. It was, I just took the cues, we made it beautiful, and it went out and it became a gem. It is a gem. So there are people here who not only just print and compete and do that, they make books, they do gallery work, they teach, they do all kinds of things. Mentorship, I want to bring up mentorship because there's somebody here, his name is Walter Levy, you might know him. I asked him to show me the ropes, and he walked me through everything. And now he and I have become great friends, great family friends. There's a lot of family in this group as well. We're not just teachers and collaborators, we're family as well. It's important to let these people shine. And let's do that right now. I'm going to introduce Shailesh. He's going to come here. Everything's going to be there. We're going to give him about 15 minutes each, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards. So everybody gets about 20 minutes.
Collectively afterwards.
Should we do it collectively or one after the other? No, we should do it when right after presentation.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because if we do it at the end, it's going to take forever. So let's do that. Shailesh, take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So, one of the reasons I told Christoph that I don't want to record my session is maybe 2 reasons. One is I feel like an imposter. I looked at all the other speakers that are coming after me, and my project is probably nothing as compared to what they are doing. But it's a very emotional project for me personally, and I'll explain in a minute why. And then, and I've been member now for 2 years, and I felt comfortable that I can share some of my personal experiences with you. So that's why I'm here. As soon as Christoph sent that email, I was probably the first person to. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And again, this is. I have a project that's going on in trying to restore old images. It started with one particular image that I'm mostly going to talk about that image today. I have other images in work, but just a disclaimer that I used various websites. I'm not promoting any of them, and don't count on the results that that I got, because I don't get the same result. The same next time I use the same website with the same prompt. So don't follow my lead on that. But just something, as I said, this is more of an emotional project to me than technical. So since my project is going on for such a long time, one of the things that once I decided to give this presentation, I forgot all the prompts that I used to generate these images. But the beauty of the AI is I could just go back and say, hey, give me a summary of all the prompts that I used and make a library. So it just went through my history and gave me, I didn't put everything, but there's like 4 pages of prompt that I use, and the AI basically gave all the details. Not only that, the disclaimer that I put, I said, hey, I just need a disclaimer that I did I'm doing a presentation for the club, and then it created the disclaimer. So let AI do a lot of work for you. That's what I learned. As I talked to, I was able to do a lot of things, but there are certain things that I wouldn't be able to do. was able to do no matter how hard I try. And now I'll highlight this later as we get to some of the image. So where my story or journey kind of started is going back to potentially somewhere between 1945 to 1947. This is a picture of my grandmother. She passed away due to the complications in childbirth. So my father never saw her, I mean, doesn't have any memory of her. Only memory we have of her as a family is this one photo. And then this photo was, as you can see, that has gone through a lot. And somebody at some point in India has developed this process of mounting images on a piece of wood. And that's all the memory that I have, everybody in my family have of my grandmother. So, so this image was sitting somewhere in India in a closet for a long time. A few months ago, I think July last year, I was in India, and I thought, okay, I need to do something with this image. So I got it, and then you can remove the screw backing on the back, and I put it on a scanner. I scanned it, and then I said, okay, maybe I need to need to take it to the next level. That's where the this whole project started. So I'm just going to go through some examples of the websites that you use. So this is where I started. This is a website called Pixar Art, and as you can see, there's almost no difference between the original and the restored image. And there is another website called PDF Simply, and I think it did pretty decent job on trying to restore the image, try to get rid of all the blemishes here in the background. So I was happy, I said, okay, looks like this AI thing is working. And then I found this website called Photo Booth. And I think one of the benefit of this website is there are no prompts needed. So you just say restore the image, and it did. And I felt this did pretty good job. Again, for a free website and not having any prompts that you required. This is another website called Image Gen AI. I think it probably did almost equally good job as the previous website. And then now you got things got very interesting, because now you can colorize it again using this PDF Simply. So just again, imagine nobody has ever seen a picture of this woman ever in color. And it was really emotional to just see an image in color. And then now you can see what the ChatGPT can do. So obviously, everybody in my family, as soon as they saw this image, they just literally started crying, because imagine that somebody was there in a closet, nobody was looking at it, and then now trying to not only restore the image, but to get to a point where you feel like the image was taken yesterday, and then the fact that this is the only memory. So whatever the photographer took that one image, I don't think he realized in 1940s that this photograph has such a long journey, and hopefully it will continue through my family. And then I have a cousin in California. So this is the icing on the cake. So this is the great-granddaughter of my grandmother, and this is what he's been able to achieve. So that's all, So I feel, all of us are photographer. Whatever, I don't even know the name of the photographer who took that picture, but he has done such a big favor to my family, hopefully for generations to come. So that's all I wanted to share. That's all my presentation. Thank you.
Wait, how did you make that video?
So there is again a website that can take the photo, and then they will build the animation.
Do you know what that website is?
Yeah, I think it's called Gronk.
Gronk?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the Grok that...
It's just an AI.
X.
Yeah, it's just AI. Yeah.
It's X, it's AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Nano Banana does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, so that's why because I didn't know what I'm doing, so I said I'm just going to try all the free websites. So every single website I use is free.
Shailesh, the images that were in color were very different from the original.
It's true. Yep, yep,
Leads,
yep,
how different they are.
yep, yep.
The face was different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the closest I could. There are maybe 20 images I threw away because the AI would just completely mess up and it would look like a different person. One thing I forgot to mention is, typically it's very common at that era and even now for Indian women to wear some gold. And I'm 100% sure that this necklace was gold. And no matter what prompts I try, I could not get that. All the prompts would give me black. Even I specifically asked, I could not make it turn into the gold
Yeah,
color.
like her earring is probably gold. And
They
there's
took
no
the
earring.
earring off.
Yeah, they took
Right.
the earring off. But again, I'm very appreciative for a free software that the stuff that you're able to do. So.
Yeah, I think that looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what ChatGPT 4 will do.
Thank you.
Do you?
She looks so young.
Yeah, because she must be.
You don't get a sense of her age, but.
I think she would be younger than 20 when she passed away,
Oh
based
my
on
God.
yeah.
Wow.
And the other sad part of the story is by the time I figured this out, my father unfortunately lost his eyesight. So he has never been able to see any of these pictures.
Oh, no.
So that's the sad part of life, Go ahead.
Shailesh, on these chat GPTs, how much did you prompt it and specify the
Yeah, so
answer?
I
How much
specified
did
the
AI
prompt
do?
on the first page, but pretty much these are the prompts that I used. So not much, more than 2 or 3 lines, that's it.
So you didn't specify the colors and
No,
clothing?
so I just, on the colors, I said, hey, just colorize. Then what happened is, as you can see, there is some design on her sari. It's almost impossible because it's all lost. And then I said, make it to match the period in 1940s. And then it did couple of variation, which I think ChatGPT did pretty good job. But then the kunku that is used, typically that's red, and I couldn't change that. And the necklace is the 2 things that I tried many times, and I have not been able to change. I mean, I can always post edit and take care of that, but.
So did you also prompt as far as what culture?
Yes, I said this original photograph. When for the sari color, for the color photograph, I specified because I know she lived in Bombay, Mumbai, and most probably that's where the photograph was taken. So I specified it was taken in 1945, although I don't know exact date, in Mumbai, India. So match the clothing to reflect what the woman would be wearing at that time.
Do the AI engines change the resolution of photographs when you do this?
Yeah, I mean, they improve their resolution significantly as compared to, and then as you can see, the denoise feature is phenomenal, very good. It's just, it sometimes it makes it look so artificial that, and in here also, as you can, some of the features have changed. That's why it's nice to see a color photograph. That one of my worries is that if somebody takes this photo and hangs it on the wall, then they will forget the original face, So that's why I always want to keep this together, the original as well as the recreation. Go ahead.
Hi, did you make this with the free version or paid version?
All free, everything I used is free version.
Thank you.
Did you ever consider doing it iteratively where you get a first approximation from one and then resubmit that as if it was your original image?
I tried because especially on some of the changes that I was trying to do, I'll do one pass at one side and then try to do take that image and put it on the second side only to change certain things. Is very hit and miss whether it works or not. That's one of the challenge. Maybe it's because of the free. I mean, for most of the parts, simple things it took care of it. But when I got into the details, was not either wasn't able to do it or did it such a bad job that it was not worth keeping the image. So. The other thing I want to mention, all this took less than 2 minutes for every site. Probably turned it around in less than few minutes. So it wasn't time consuming that way. It's just that you have to go on another website and try the next step. So I mean, I would highly recommend anybody who has old images and trying to. Was very rewarding for various reasons. So.
You know, Shailesh, I'm looking at the lighting on her face and the original photo. It picked it right up. You can see the lighting on the cheeks, the little chin, a little bit of lighting up here. It also put the lights in her eyes.
But as I said, it was very, as you can imagine, I shared it with everybody I ever related to and say, hey, this is what I had done. So thank you. I know it's already probably more than my allocated time, but if you guys want to chat afterwards or want a copy of the websites I use, please free to reach out. Thank you.
Next up on the roster, we have Richard.
Great, okay. Long path to senescence, and I'm going to do it in 15 minutes, so it's not all that long. There's copies of the book out, plus three previous books I've done that are all very different. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in doing books for you. Okay, why isn't this paging down? Okay, a book that charted my course. That when I was back in college, more or less, I bought a Sierra Club book called Not Man Apart. That was photographs by Weston and Adams and all those guys that were in Carmel and California around the 50s and 60s. It was, I thought, a great book, a lot of great pictures. But there was also poetry with those pictures by Robinson Jeffers, who was sort of environmental poet, also in Carmel at about that time. And I felt that combining text with the images really enhanced both. And that's been really important to me and the way I approach things, and it's continued to this day. So that's sort of what my what we're going to talk about a little bit more. Okay, let's try that again. There, that's the cover of the book, an example of the poetry in the book from the title, actually. A lonely clearing, a little field of corn by the stream side, a roof under spared trees. Love that, not man apart from that. And I think that combining the pictures with the poetry adds a whole new dimension to both interpreting the photograph and understanding what the author or the photographer tried to say. For me, it became a model where you want competent, meaningful images with text to enhance and specify the photographer's intent. I see lots of, or number of photo books where they have a picture and there's no text, there's no description, it's whatever you want to make of it. But what if you as the photographer or as the author wanted to present a particular concept? Not everybody has to do that. You could let the viewer interpret however they want, but if you want to do it, I think that combining the two greatly enhances your ability to do that. Some may say the image should speak for itself. As I say here, if you want to communicate something specific, then you can do that by combining the text and the images through a book. I'm trying to keep it real brief. Many people leave it to the viewer to interpret, which is fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that if you want to do something different, then this is one way to do it. When I take a photograph, I see possibilities. It's not the final image. When I edit the photograph, a specific concept or purpose hopefully will come out of my editing. That's where I put my personal imprint on the image. It's what I want to say. And in part, I say it by how dark I make it, how light I make it, what crop, where in areas I might emphasize by lightening or darkening particular parts of the images. Others may interpret the image differently. I would expect that if two people start with the same image and then take it into Photoshop, you'll see two very different images generally, not always, but generally at the end. And I think that by combining text and image, you can do that most effectively. Oops. No, we did that, didn't we? Oh, did we? Okay, no, yeah, okay. Sorry, but it's a little sensitive. Okay, when I started Senescence, I had done 3 books previously, and there's examples of those on the table over there if you want to page through them. When I started this one, it was December 2021. COVID was really getting going. And I was feeling that when COVID is over, we're going to look back, but we're going to forget how we were feeling at the time. It'll all just fade into history, and we won't really have a good record for ourselves of what we were thinking, how we were feeling. There was a lot of fear at the time, a lot of distress. But also, personally, I didn't want to go out and be with people because of the possibility of contagion. It was autumn. Things were dying, which wouldn't seem to promote photography very much. But I started making images of the dead flowers in my garden. It's sort of, the dying flowers sort of reflected the malaise that a lot of people were feeling. So that seemed a good place to start. Plus, I didn't have to go anywhere or travel or be with other people to do that. So I started making those images and hadn't yet decided what to do with them. Okay, I finally I got a subscription to the New York Times. They, of course, had a lot of detail on this. So I started to depend on them to capture the feeling of the time and combine that with these distressing or images of these flowers. I want to read a few of these because, I mean, preparing this brought back some of those feelings. May 20th, 2022, India broke a world record for the most COVID deaths in one day. 100 million doses of vaccine may be contaminated. A new, more contagious variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus is spreading rapidly. On the positive side, immunity to the coronavirus could possibly last a lifetime. That proved not to be true. The president ordered an intelligence investigation of the origins of the virus, and so on. And I continued this until November. And then in November, I decided, well, I had all these quotes from the New York Times. I should probably call them and find out what's involved in using these quotes. I was thinking, you know, it's like a one-line quote. It's not a whole lot. They'll be fine with it. Yeah, right. They said that for every quote, they needed the date, the article title, the author, the page number, and some other things, and to determine how much to charge me for each one. I said, now I don't know if I had pursued this with them more intensively. They may have said it was okay, but I was just not going to deal with that, even if they wanted just a small amount of that information. And I mean, that was 4 quotes from 1 month. After several months, the number of quotes really added up, and looking up that information that requested would have taken days. And so I said goodbye, no thanks. But in the end, I feel that it wasn't a bad thing. So I wrote mostly about what the image evoked in me after processing, not when I was taking the image, for 2 reasons. When taking the image, it was in color, even if it was withered and was mostly gray, but I was presenting it in black and white. Also, as I processed it and I had thoughts about how I wanted it to look, I could just quietly contemplate the image after it was processed and decide how I felt about the final image. And past their prime flowers reflected how I was feeling, to tell the truth. It's all free verse because I didn't want to be constrained by any format. And sometimes the text does relate to the image, and sometimes it doesn't. And you know what? I feel that's fine. Most of the, just on the technical side, most of the images were taken with a 105 or a 200 macro. The 200 macro gave me some good working distance, but had much shallower depth of field. I did address the depth of field because most of the images are stacked focus image, where you take slices of the image and then there's software that you can combine them. That also had the advantage that I didn't have to worry about what the background looked like, because I was taking very narrow slices and would stop at the end of the flower, so everything beyond that was out of focus. For each type, in the book itself, for each type of plant, the first image is in color of a bloom that's fresh and looks great, and then what happens through time as the flower withers. An example of what I've written. Backlit clematis feathers glow brightly in the afternoon sun like an angel's halo, or a reflection off a bald scalp, or to deflect the eye from a withered body. Let's see, one more. As the Webb telescope opens the universe, COVID narrows and closes the world. As brilliant scientists make vaccine in record time, lying politicians narrow our freedoms. As I travel down the path to entropy at an increasingly rapid pace, should I regret that I will not see a brilliant future, or celebrate that calamity can no longer reach me? So some are fairly serious, some a little bit lighter, some combine both. Okay, to do this book, it cost me about $1,100. I would expect that if you're putting on a show, and if you don't do your own mounting and framing, you would probably spend about that much money and have many fewer images. And each individual image you would have to sell for more than the cost of a book. So there's advantages in disseminating your work and sharing it with people. A lot of people, well, I should say a lot of people, but I would expect many people have more room on their coffee table for your book than they do on their walls for your mounted image. So I think that there's lots of advantages. I did 35 copies. You could do more, you could do less. As the number of copies goes up, the total cost goes up, but the cost per copy goes down. I worked with Bookmobile that Christoph introduced me to. They were great people. They were really easy to work with. If I had a question, you know, like 15 minutes later, I'd get an answer. And they were all really nice. I did check out a local printer. And let me be clear, these are really printers, not publishers. They don't help with disseminating the book. They don't advertise. They don't get it anywhere. It's all up to me. They're just doing the printing. I do want to hit this because I think it's important, because some people may have been really discouraged. If you saw that MPA presentation by the author of a book on Sicily, you got only a small part of the story. You know, he said you have to spend a lot of money, you have to do this, no, you don't. If your primary purpose is to make money on the book, then possibly you do need to do that. But if your book is something that you do for yourself, if it's something that you want to share with your friends, you don't need to do all of that. There are many other options today where you are your own publisher, print on demand like Blurb, zines, short, inexpensive, soft-covered staple documents, small press runs like I did. So I should be doing okay on time. The Bookmobile, as I said, that's who I used. Another place, Press, they pay nothing towards the production and you receive loyalties. But I would expect that they're not going to accept a lot of people. They'll only accept the ones that they think is going to sell. I have a 58-page compilation of printers and publishers with notes. If anybody wants a copy of that, I'd be glad to send it out. Just shoot me an email. I'll attach it in my response. And you can look it over, see if there's anything of interest. In conclusion, I think that a printed publication that you can share with friends and family can be a viable alternative or addition to making mounted and framed prints. It can present a body of work more readily than separate prints. It provides an opportunity to combine words with your images, allows you to share your thoughts about your images. As I mentioned before, coffee tables have more space than bookshelves, and you don't have to put any holes in the wall. It's easier to share. Even if you do a show, okay, something to think about, it could provide a less expensive takeaway for people who maybe don't want to or don't have room for a mounted print, but they'd be willing to spend $35 on a book because they enjoyed the show, as opposed to spending $250 or maybe more for a mounted print. And I think perhaps most important to us as amateurs, a book can also be an opportunity for self-exploration or to share your sense of humor. So with that, I would assume I have a minute or two for questions, if there are any.
We're not on a time restriction.
Thank you.
Richard, have you done creative writing before? And if, how do you think that enters into the recommendations for someone to take that on if they don't have writing experience?
Well, actually, my writing is, I'm a scientist by training, so I wouldn't call it creative writing. Hopefully it wasn't, at least my dissertation advisors would hope that it wasn't creative. I mean, to me, it's just write what you feel. I mean, it's your book. You could say whatever you want. Working with a good editor, Christoph helped me a lot at saying things clearly. Finding a good editor is something definitely worthwhile. But say what the image evokes in you, and then it'll just come out. It's not really that hard.
Put it in ChatGPT.
Yes, you could. They could probably write the cat.
I'm joking.
Actually,
Well-
that's not a bad idea because you can go. Let's say you have a photo and you say, "Give me a title for this photo." ChatGPT will give you various titles to match that photo.
Yeah, but then it's ChatGPT's, not mine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying you could use it if you stuck. Like sometimes we're doing prints for competition and you can't think of a name.
Yeah.
ChatGPT can help you with that.
Yeah.
Or just follow the song on radio. That's what Jen Smutek does. Why not?
What did you do for distribution? How did you get it around?
I sold like 3 or 4 copies. Diane, thank you very much. Probably more copies than you would like the family.
I bought copies from you too.
Yeah. Oh,
You want
there you go.
It sits on my coffee table.
Fine, great, thank you. Okay, any more questions?
Does the cost change whether it's black and white or color or?
You have to check with the publisher. I don't recall. Mine does have color and black and white. I think it's probably a bit more expensive if they have to do both. But I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference.
I've used Blurb before to make books on like family
have.
trips or 50th wedding anniversary for my parents. And the cool thing about that is that right before Thanksgiving they'll give you like a 40% off coupon.
Yes, if you're at all interested in Blurb, I think they have their own publishing software
Yeah.
that you could use. Plus, they hold it online. So if you instead of printing 35 copies, you could print 3 that you want to give away to family or whatever, and then you tell anybody else who wants one, go to Blurb and you can buy it directly from them. So you don't have to lay out the money. Now, if they're individual copies, it's a little more expensive. But overall, it's going to be much less expensive. So you only want 3 or 4 copies. Question?
Oh, no, I was just in a can.
I couldn't have your hand up. Okay.
So I did have a question for you. So the printer, if you needed more, can they go back and just print 1 or 2 books for you?
Yes, they can do reprints. They keep the files. So, And it will be somewhat less expensive because they've done the setup already. Where's my flash drive from? Thank you. Okay, thank you for your time.
And next we have, of course, there you go, okay, yeah.
As soon as we get everything up. While we wait to get things up, just give you a little bit about my presentation. My presentation is really like 4 to 5 hours long. Okay. No, seriously. My presentation is a teaching presentation, and so the stress of doing this presentation was to condense it down based on Christoph. So I'm going to try my best. So what I decided to do is just take a small piece of what I normally teach photographers or anybody who's involved in worship services or event work. So just bear with me. And so I'm going to limit this down to just church worship and event work. The problem is I can't see my screen right there.
Well, it's not showing up when you
It is, but it's in a small caption. Anyway, I can move over here. So anyway, so I don't know if everybody read my bio. Did everybody read the bio? So I don't need to go through that. So let me tell you how I got started in doing event work. I specialize in event work. I specialize in world mission work. And so throughout the years, I discovered that, 20 years of shooting event work and doing world mission work. I've done 30 world mission works all around the world. And especially with event work, I realized that a lot of photographers really do not know how to do event work, how to shoot it and how to shoot it right. So my project is trying to teach photographers how to really shoot an event and do it effectively. My photography goes all the way back to 1977 up to now. Like I said, I have a degree in photography. I have a couple of degrees in photography. And so with all of that, I've been really doing a lot of teaching lately. And this is one of the projects that's not only on my PowerPoint, but I plan to write a book on it. When I started doing research on how to do photography in worship services, it was this much. Didn't have a lot. And it's like, this is important. Why don't they have, you have a lot of information on videography in churches, but not photography. My personal feeling is that photos will trump video any day because they'll last a whole lot longer. People will look at photos more so than a video. So for me, it was important to understand how to shoot an event properly. Now, like I say, I'm going to focus in on photographing churches and houses of worship. No matter what, it doesn't really matter what your religion is. It's the technique that I'm going to talk about. Understand the technique. And we also, if I have time, I'm going to look at missionary and street event photography. And if I have time, I'm going to close to kind of wrap it all up together. Well, I'm going to show you a 4-minute video of these same techniques on the mission field. Okay. First of all, let me just say this. Before I get into the heart of my discussion, I would like to share a concept with you that I think everybody should be aware of when you're shooting. You don't mind if I move this back a little bit so I can see it?
Should have plenty of cable.
Yeah, because I have a small screen. I don't have glasses. Okay. All right, so before I get into the heart of my discussion, I would like to share a concept on how we should look at photography. When I look at photography, I look at it as a blank slate. All of your photo work should start with a blank canvas on your camera, or your sensor as I call it. And so what does that mean to you? Well, what that means to you is that you are the artist. You have to decide on what goes on that canvas. What story do I tell? What emotions do I want to express? Every photo project should start with that concept. It's like a painter. A painter sits there with a canvas in front of him, and he has to figure out, what do I put on this canvas? Well, guess what? You're the artist. You have to think, do I paint my canvas in black and white, or am I going to use color? What emotions do I want to show through this picture? What am I trying to get the viewer to see? What am I trying to explain to this viewer? So I look at my lenses as my paintbrushes. When I do event work, these are my paintbrushes that I use to make those images on my canvas. And I can pretty much tell you that when I'm shooting event work, these are the tools I'm using. My 50 millimeter, 1.4, my 24 to 75, 2.8, 16 to 50, 2.8, 70 to 200, and then my workhorse on the street, 18 to 200 millimeter. Sometimes I can't get to the people, and I need to reach out and kiss them with my lens. So and 4 years ago, I realized that when I was in quiet spaces, traditional cameras are very distracting. You hear that mirror clicking up and down? So I moved to mirrorless cameras, and when I'm shooting in quiet spaces, I completely turn my camera completely off. I go stealth. I can stand near someone 2 to 3 feet, take a photo, you would never know I took it. And that's why I moved to mirrorless cameras. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some concepts here. And these concepts will work. So things to consider when you start a shooting project. Number one, try to get as much information about the project beforehand. The one thing you don't want to do is walk into a project and have no idea with lighting, conditions, what you're supposed to do. You need to get as much information as possible. Also, and this is for anybody. If you're shooting people or somebody asks you to even shoot a birthday party, who's the main principal?
Mm-hmm.
Who should I be focusing on? Is it the pastor? Is it the guest speaker? Is the motivational speaker? Who are they? And then also, when I shoot, I have to ask certain questions. Is there any copyright restrictions? If I'm shooting a band, and what you'll see, do the band have restrictions on taking photos? They got copyrights too. Sometimes there may be children involved. Can children's photos be uploaded in Facebook or social media? These are questions you have to ask. Are there any restrictions? Big thing, when I'm shooting in worship services, can I use a flash? Or any kind of event, can I use a flash? I can pretty much tell you that 98% of the time, when I'm shooting in a worship service, I do not use flash. Only time I use flash is if they're having a production where it's a dark space. I usually tell them ahead of time, I'm going to use flash for this particular section of your program, and then it goes off. I find that flashes will disturb a worship service, and that is the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do. And we're going to talk about how to get the photos up close in a worship service. I'm going to show you some photos. So I'm not just talking the talk, I'm going to walk it with you through photos. Okay? And let's see. And I'm going to try to go through a lot of this as quick as possible because I know we have a time constraint. So, unfortunately. So, here's some things that I also think about. Are there anything unique about the location that I'm going to shoot in? Because locations can also enhance your photos. Are there stained glass windows? Are there archways? Are there crosses there? Any kind of props that you can use to make that photo even better when you're incorporating people in it. Is the event formal or relaxed? A relaxed setting. This will determine how I dress. If it's formal, I need to be dressed a little bit more formal. But if it's kind of casual, I normally wear black and black khakis. Are there special needs for the church or the client? This is one thing that most people fail to get when you're doing a project. You need to be talking to I call it the media manager to find out what is it that you need. What kind of photos do you need? Do you need large photos? Do you need candid photos? Do you need headshots? That will dictate what you're going to be doing during the event shoot. And because I've been in situations, also weddings, where someone missed somebody important, and guess what happened? They didn't get the rest of their deposit because they missed that important person. So you need to always look, and what I do when I'm on scene, I'll also tell the event planner there, if there's any photos that you need, that you haven't told me about, just tap me on the shoulder. Okay. And I said, like, find out how the photos are going to be used. Are they going to be used on social media or marketing? If they're going to be used for marketing, your price goes up. Remember that. Okay, this is my mindset. Your photo work should be photojournalistic and should tell a story or share a story. I don't do any kind of Photoshop work when I'm shooting an event, and especially in a church. It is what it is. So it is important that you shoot it as correct as possible. Exposure, your composition, all of that has to be done right. I mean, you can do some of this tweaking in it, but do not put these kind of photos in Photoshop and come up with some weird rendition of it. The project manager doesn't want to see that. They want to see real stuff from real people. Okay. Also, when I'm shooting, I'm also constantly monitoring the room. And I'm going to speed up some of this also. When I'm shooting in an event, my eyes is always looking. It's always surveying. One good thing about my background, if you read my bio, I have a lot of degrees in human behavior, clinical work. I used to be a clinical social worker. And it allows me to read body languages really well. So when I'm in an event, I'm always looking at body language. And that helps me determine when I can shoot an event or shoot a person. And I'm always moving. I'm not standing in one spot. You're going to see when I get into some photos of a men's event that I did. I'm in a large church. It's just me. 1,200 people. It's a huge sanctuary. And I can guarantee you that I can get around the sanctuary with ease. Okay. And you have to, I'm going to say this also. A lot of times when I see we have photographers in my church also. And I wish Joe was here because Joe always comments on the other photographers. The biggest thing that when you see a shot, you need to take it. Shot not going to be there forever. The minute I see what I want, I shoot it. I don't wait. In a split second, a moment in a good photo shoot could be gone. So when you see it, you need to shoot it. I have been shooting events so much. Let me put it this way. I shoot events at my church twice a month, just at my church. But then I shoot other events with other people. I have been so good at shooting events that before I even take that picture, my mind instantaneously can look at the composition, what's behind that person, what's going to be in my frame, what am I going to put on my canvas. You have to learn to be that quick, because in these particular events, you don't have forever to shoot. Somebody could be raising their hand up and then drop their hand that quick. You just missed the shot. Person could be tearing up, and now because you're sitting there looking, now they took a tissue and wiped their eyes, and you missed the tears. So you have to be very proactive in what you're looking for. couple other things I want to tell you too. Is that I tell people when you're shooting in worship service, do not disturb the individual. Your job is to be stealth, be like a stealth. You want to be able to get in quietly, take the picture, move on. And the key to that is to look at body language. When a person is in a worship service, I'm looking for when they check out. And what I mean by check out, when they're in prayer, when they are so deep in their worship experience that they don't even know you're there. I could be standing 3 feet in front of you and take a photo and you would not know it because you're checked out. So what I'm just telling you is not only at worship services, but I do this even on street photography, when I'm on world mission work. It's called being able to look at the person and evaluate, can they visualize me taking that picture? If they can, I don't take the photo. I move until I'm able to take that photo. And I call it being spiritually checked out. So let's take a look at an actual, because I know you want to see some photos, right? I want to take a look at an actual photo that I did. One of the things I do when I'm doing an event, this is at my church. This is a men's conference, 1,200 men, large church in Lutherville. First thing I want to do is that I want to take photos of the guests coming in for the event. Every photo that you're taking should be telling a story, leading someplace. So this is the beginning of the event. Men walking up to the church, they're coming through the doors. We got refreshment stands out there. These are the refreshment stands. And I also want to take pictures of people engaged in the event. So when you are looking at an event like this, you have important people that you need to be reminded of. Number one, there's vendors here. You got to make sure you capture vendors because they're paying to be there. People checking in for the event. I want to capture that. People, getting snacks, milling in the lobby. These are photos that you need to be taken to start building your story. This is just at the beginning. Again, all the men coming in. This is the check-in time, and I want to show that because the church or the people who are putting this event together, they're going to use this for branding and also for their next event. People talking to the vendors. I want to see engagement. If the speakers at this event has books that they're selling, guess what? I need to photograph that. They paid, as Richard said, they paid a lot of money to make these books, right? So I got to show that they were at the event and people are going to buy them. Again, these are the books at the event. Then people engage. Who are the vendors there? Like I say, the vendors are paying money to be there, so they want to see their images on the website also. People buying shirts and paraphernalia. And I try to always take photos when people are buying something when there's exchange going on, so you can see the activity. And then, so what I just showed you was outside of the sanctuary. But now the question is, does the sanctuary have stuff in there also? Yeah, you got to photograph that too. I see these books are up on stage. There's a backdrop for the event. I need to shoot that. This is a men's event, so they have activities up here all for men. They have fishing rods, golf clubs, bow and arrows, all of that. This is how you're building a story to do an event. And then we have the Cretinas. This is a nationally known group. They're out of Hawaii, and you want to photograph them. You want to take detailed shots of them. You want to get photos of them performing. And so I always believe in shooting big and then working my way down. Anybody know Robert Stocksdale? He used to be a member here. He also taught at Johns Hopkins University. I did some training under Robert Stockstill. He was a American newspaper journalist. I mean, not journalist, photographer. And I trained under him on how to do event work. So, as you get closer to the action, now you want to see the activities of the band, them performing. And I don't want to just take a bland shot of the performer. I want to see action. I want to see expression on their faces. Then, now, you see how big this is? This is only half of it. It goes further. So now I'm going behind the performers because now I want to show the audience from the performer standpoint. This is how you're building a story. And now, when we get into the worship service, we want to also see the people engage with the worship service. And this, and I think this is important because this is supposed to be an event for men. You got to see that the men is involved in this, okay? And then you want close-ups. This is the second band that came up, and as you can see, I get real close to the action. I got to be really close to get that. And what I'm looking for expression. Is my photos telling a story? Is it emoting some expression or some kind of attitude from the artist? Now, when I get to the main speakers, we'll get there in a minute. But one of the things that Robert Stockstill coached me on is that when you do an event, you have to show the big picture first. I learned that from him. And then you drill down to the middle-sized pictures, and then you go closer, and then you go closer and closer until it's more candid. This is the event here. As you can see how much space, I am all over this arena here, shooting. And so the project manager wants to see the big picture. They want to see these are all men, surprisingly, in a church, because men normally don't come to church as much. And I'm just shooting it from a different angle, showing wide angles. And this is what you need to do when you're doing these kind of events. And then we're going to drill down a little bit closer. Now I'm getting into my medium shots where, just coming closer and closer down to the end. And then I'm drilling down a little bit closer. Now I'm down on the floor. See, I'm up on the balcony. I'm coming down from the balcony. Now I'm going down to the floor level. I want to, at some point, start mixing in with these people.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's past 9 o'clock. I want to leave room for.
Okay. We may not get to the video then. So then you have the drill down, and then I'm getting closer. So a lot of times, even when I'm shooting, I may be even right next to the stage, shooting. And if you look at these photos, as I start wrapping up here, you'll see that no one's looking at me. That I am shooting stealth. I am waiting for the moment to shoot. Same thing here. Same thing here. And then when you get to your main speakers, I never want to shoot a speaker doing this. They have to be doing something. Their hands have to be moving. They have to show some action in their face. And as you can see here, as I go through this, you'll see that. These are all speakers. And and sometimes I have to wait for the right expression before I shoot it. I want it to tell a story. Now I'm really getting close. These shots right here, I'm probably 3 feet away from them. And as you can see, no one's worried about where I'm at because I'm shooting stealth. Now I'm real close. There's an instructor up in Frederick Community College. His name was Dan Senna. He was president of the Frederick Click Club. One of the things that Dan told me is that when you feel like you close, get closer. it's more of an amazing shot when you actually get closer to the shot, as you see here. And again, no one is focusing on me. So it's all about body language and knowing when to shoot. Same thing here. I'm probably standing 2 feet from this person. I'm mixed into the crowd. Look, no one's looking at me. So it's all about understanding body language when you shoot. And whether you're doing street photography or worship service or any kind of event, learn these techniques and look for body language. Same thing here. And you can't get these photos standing 20 feet away. You got to be up close and personal. And this is why I decided to create this training PowerPoint for photographers that want to shoot events. Tina, Guy, and Joe Parker will be shooting an event tomorrow. Tim Tebow event called A Night to Shine. It's a national event all around the world, and our church is hosting it, so we're shooting the event. So anyway, and so when you get finished, then you want to start doing your wrap up of people getting together and exiting the program. Now, can I have 3 minutes?
That's taking Phyllis's time.
Can I have 3 minutes? Thank you. So I want to put all this together to show you that this is not just about shooting in a worship space. These techniques can be used anywhere. I'm going to show you a video that I created for my world mission work. It's about 4 minutes. It's along with the same techniques that I talked about. Thank you. So, and wrapping up, as you can see, some of the things I talked about of how I shoot in the church, you can see I shoot that way even in the field. So it's just not worship services that these techniques can work in. It's even street photography and other events outside of the church. So, like I said, this is like a 4-hour thing. I tried to stream this down as much as possible, and I thank Phyllis for her time. And because of that, if people want to talk to me afterwards, I'm going to lend to the discussion afterwards, okay?
All right.
Thanks. Come on up, my dear. So as they say, sometimes just take it and just ask for grace later, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be using Kenny's
She got me.
computer, so hopefully it'll go smoothly.
No, you'll be fine. I already got you set up.
Thank you.
Do you want me to put this in presentation mode for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. There you go.
Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
see, can I just advance it this way? Yes,
Yep,
I can.
there you go.
Okay, super. Okay, hi, everybody. I haven't been here for a while, so for those of you that don't know me, thank you. My name is Phyllis Berger. I teach photography at Johns Hopkins University, where I have been teaching for 29 years, and I started the photography program there, and have loved every minute of it. So we've had 3 great teachers tonight. I'm not really here as a teacher tonight. I'm here to tell you about a project that I've been working on in Amsterdam that I started 7 years ago. It's about the zoo in Amsterdam. It's called the Artist Zoo. And I'm just going to show you a picture of it. Might not look too much like a zoo. It is the most beautiful, idyllic place, but it has a secret within these gorgeous gardens. And that is that during World War II, underdikers, who are people that are in hiding, were scattered about the entire zoo, hidden within its beautiful buildings, just incredible architecture there, and protected by the people that worked at the zoo. There were a lot of people that knew what was going on, and no one said anything, which is, absolutely amazing during World War II, because during that time, if you turned someone in, you've got 7.5 guilders for a life. And you might have had, like a nice dinner that night, but, someone would be off to a concentration camp. So how did I get to Amsterdam? Just a real quick story. My son and his wife and I were going to go to Amsterdam, and we were very excited about the trip, and I've done a trip with all my children. But my daughter-in-law got bitten by a spider and developed cellulitis in her arm, and it was thought that she might lose her arm, so obviously they weren't going to go to Amsterdam. We had picked an apartment, kind of an affordable apartment, and I knew nothing about Amsterdam, and I just kind of, like threw the dart, and ended up in the Jewish community there, and I'm Jewish myself, and so I found a lot of meaning in that community, which I'll get to in a little bit. But so I had been going to museums and walking along the canals, and what do I do next? I often go to zoos when I'm in other countries, just because I enjoy street photography and meeting people. And honestly, I don't really like zoos that much, because the idea that animals are, in pens and out of their native habitat kind of upset me. And I understand the need for zoos to protect species and things like that. But so I found myself in the Artist Zoo, which was this absolutely spectacularly beautiful place. I'm going to ask you to take a moment. I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to think about a beautiful place, a place that you know very, very well, a place that you love. Now imagine yourself a wall away from that place, sitting in the dark for hours, days, years, unable to go out. What do you think about? Do you think Do you wander paths? Do you see, in this case, it would be sculpture, because this zoo is filled with art. Do you imagine your family's faces? Do you remember the rituals that you have in your community? All these things. So this is what I'm thinking about when I'm photographing the zoo. I'm telling stories of people that I can't see, who can't tell me what they're thinking, although many of the stories that I do tell, and this is an image and text piece, poetry and photography, I have to imagine what they are thinking and feeling. And I have done that through my writing, through poetry. So when this is, I guess, my favorite spot in the zoo, and I kind of imagine that if I was in this dark room at night, I might be thinking of this guy, Bacchus, and how I used to go there. You know, the zoo in Amsterdam was a very, very popular place, and still is. It's always mobbed. And during the war, of course, it was off limits to Jews. And, and I should also say that it protected people that were working for the resistance, people that were going to be drafted into the German army or working in Germany, and like that was a horror, and nobody wanted to do that, or many people didn't want to do that. So really, it's the story of a place, a very, very magical place, and the people that hid within it. This is the first thing that I saw when I entered the zoo. When I first went, I really didn't know the zoo's history. And so this was like right at the entrance to the zoo. And there was a little sign there that said that people were hidden there. And so I have to say, I started this 7 years ago, and a tremendous amount of research has gone into this. And the stories that I'm going to tell you tonight are, for the most part, true stories happening in the places where they occurred. So this was kind of the first spot where people came into the zoo that were brought to the zoo to hide. And it was originally in a giant moat. And so there was a plank that the caretaker would put out, and that people would kind of scamper across and jump inside. It was called Monkey Rock. Nazis came to the zoo every day. They loved zoos. In fact, they had zoos at concentration camps, believe it or not. Like they were, to entertain the SS and their families and people in the community. There would be, for example, Buchenwald, the zoo was right outside the gates of the concentration camp. So on this island, and they're still there are baboons. And the baboons would warn the people that were in the zoo that Nazis were coming, because the Nazis would come with their dogs. They came with Doberman Pinschers, they came with German Shepherds. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the dogs, these were night patrols, and I'm going to read you a poem about it in a second. These were night patrols, and they were searching for people in hiding. They could never find anybody. One reason is that the elephant dung, the musk of, animals mating, the bird droppings, all had a very powerful smell. And so they could not smell the people that were in hiding. So the baboons would go a little bit crazy when these dogs were coming in. And, oh, wait a minute, I think I picked the wrong thing. Yep, it's this one, thank you. And so I'm going to read you the poem that goes along with this. If I just photographed hiding places around the zoo, I think it would be kind of a boring project. By the way, you might be able to tell that I photographed this in infrared. Part of the reason, well, there are two reasons. One is that I wanted to have this very magical feeling about the imagination that people had who were in hiding. And the other is that I think it's kind of symbolic that during the war they used infrared to find people, to search out things that were invisible. And so in this case, I'm kind of illuminating people about who was there and what they were thinking and feeling. So imagine these baboons going crazy. Night patrol. Baboons are screeching, announcing the night patrol. They jump around wildly in the space we share inside Monkey Rock. Doberman's barking, SS a few feet away. I am barely breathing. It is black as pitch, and there's a baboon thumping on my chest and screaming. So if you can imagine this wild sight, and people had to always be silent, be absolutely silent. Oh, now I should tell you, as we're looking at this, that I have an exhibition coming up at Goucher College, April 26th. I am working with Goucher students who are in museum studies. They are designing this exhibition. It's going to be about 30 pieces. The students are doing historic research, which will be part of the exhibition. And I would love it if you would come. So where did I get my information about this? I met with the zoo historian who has a font of knowledge, but I also met, and this is just kind of unbelievable that he would take the time to see me, because he's very old now, an underdiker who was in hiding. He was an infant at the beginning of the war, and he became the director of the zoo. So he took me around the zoo and told me stories. There's an amazing story about this little house. Actually, this is the oldest structure in the zoo. A family lived in this structure, parents and children. They had a mirror that they could hold up and they could see what was happening below. And one quick thing, a little bit of AI. Was a modern window. I said, give me a window from 1940s in Amsterdam, and they gave me a typical window, which was great. So how do I tell the story of that family? And I will read it to you. It's called The View. Here a family hides, Mutter, Vater, and Kinder. Behind the window a mirror hangs, a silver plate suspended by a string. They gather round to see on its face those on the ground, little families like their own, except the children run free. Now, if those below who knew was above, what would they do? Would they turn them in for 7 guilders and have a dinner with a bit of meat? Their stomachs would growl a little less as the mirror swings alone in the breeze. So we also have to remember that people that escaped, they quite often, their families didn't make it. They might have known someone who worked at the zoo. There was a whole underground thing going on. In fact, and I find this really interesting, numerous people who worked at the zoo, groundskeepers and such, were helping people unbeknownst to other people that were helping people in the zoo. And there were people that were hidden everywhere. There are numerous buildings. They hid in haylofts, they hid in stables, they hid in kitchens. At the end of the war, when people came out, it's like, oh, hi, you're my neighbor. So, yeah.
You were 10 feet away from me.
That's right, just a wall away. Now, sometimes I didn't have the exact building where something happened, because that building was torn down or was modernized. And so I had to use a building for a story that I knew. And I do want to say this, that the stories that I'm telling you tonight are stories that are documented from people who were hidden. There was a group that was hidden in a building where there was a bear on one side of the door, and they were on the other. The bear was fascinated with them. I was trying to get to them all night, every night, and they had to lean against the door to keep the bear from coming in. It was, really terrifying for these people. Actually, goats live here, but so this is the bear. Night is coming on, Soon I will hear your breathing faster and faster as you scratch against the door that leads to me. It is torture for you to know I'm here, just out of reach, my smell so potent. I am your obsession. Night after night, I lean against the door. I cannot sleep. When the sun finally rises, I hear you amble out into the light for another day of peanuts tossed by children. Their screams of laughter let me know now I can sleep. So the zoo is filled with people, all having a good time. I mean, the zoo stayed open during the war. Amsterdam was kept pretty pristine. I mean, the Nazis, they invaded. They didn't want to rip it down, and they loved the zoo. So they made sure that there was enough to feed the animals, and little did they know they were feeding the Underdikers as well. So this is an aviary, and right here on the side is a kitchen. And there was a Underdiker named Hartog Waterman. His whole family unfortunately died, but he was able to escape into the zoo because he had a relative who wasn't Jewish who was working at the zoo, and he used to sleep in the kitchen on the floor, and he was right next to the bird. Now he did dye his hair, and he was able to work in the aviary during the day, so this was really, really great. But this is called my nest. A pile of straw is my nest on the cold kitchen floor. A wall away, birds flutter on their short journeys, round and round and round in a cage so large they think they are free. In the morning light, they sing me awake while I lie in darkness, knowing full well that they are glowing red and green and blue. They are safe in their prison and will live their lives long, with no fear of a predator to snatch them away, and I will be silent and small as I listen. So this bandstand, can you imagine? Orchestras playing, bands playing, people out having picnics, and inside, people are hearing this music. So this one, I actually have a personal story that I just connect to it that I was thinking about when I was writing this, and I have trouble getting through it. I'm going to try to be real strong here. But my father died when I was very young, when I was 11, and he had been in a fire, and his hands were burned, and they were like alligator hands. He was a violinist, and unfortunately, after the fire, he was no longer able to play. And so I think of him for this poem. It's called My Violin. A crowd gathers as dusk descends to hear sweet melodies, tones that race and dance and twirl among the last rays of light. Soldiers do not goose step. Children are not afraid. Bird songs play counterpoint. Lions hum continuo. Suddenly it's a symphony. A riot of sound drifts up to me in my cold lair. I feel my bow, my fingers on the strings of my violin. Tonight I will play Bach, Barber, and Brahms, notes only I can hear, while music roars inside me. So Nazis would, they just loved the zoo. They were there all the time. And so I did want to show some animals because they loved animals, obviously, more than some human beings. And I felt like this elephant was kind of almost giving somebody away. So, and this happened quite often. It happened with a gorilla named Yappy, who was so entranced with an Underdiker who could see through a door. This is a story I'll just tell you really, really quick. The Underdiker was behind the door, and there's a hole in the door, and Yappy kept looking through the hole. And the soldiers were there, and they said, like, what's he looking at? Who's in there? What's going on? So the groundskeeper said, I'll go take a look. So he goes in, and he says, oh my God, there's a rat in there. And, so they bought it, and, they were so can you imagine how many close calls there were?
Mm.
Yet everyone who was at that zoo during their time there survived.
Yeah, it was the rat.
Yeah, it was the rat. So, the lair. German soldiers line the fence, watching you, watching me. They wonder what you find so entrancing. You're a massive silhouette blocking the light of my hiding place. But your interest does not keep me safe. Amble over to the soldiers, bellow and bark to make them laugh, make them forget there was anything strange. I will wait until dark and the zoo gates are closed. If the night is starless and the moon hidden by clouds, I will emerge for a moment and speak softly to you, giving my thanks, but then must crawl back to my cave. And so I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to read any more poems, but I just want to quickly show you some images from the zoo. This is the kind of face that I think I would think about and remember. And I remember it very, very vividly. I've been working on this project for 7 years now, and this is a guy that kind of haunts my dreams. This is the entrance to Wortham Park. It's right around the corner from the zoo, and this is where the Holocaust Memorial is. And this was a park that the Jewish community used to love to go. It's in an area called the Plantage, which is just gorgeous gardens and stately homes, and people. This is so sad. People lived like a block from the zoo and didn't know what was going on and died. And they were just like this far away. So here is the entrance to the zoo. And thanks to AI, I could remove the garbage cans and the trash and all the people. This memorial is just so fabulous because it's cracked glass, and underneath that glass is are the ashes of people who died in Auschwitz. And my family also perished in the war, and I could stand there and imagine, my own relatives mixed with those under the glass, and it reflects the sky. The day that I was there, it was so fabulous because it was October and the leaves were just starting to drip down like rain, and it just made these beautiful patterns on this glass that was reflecting the sky. It was just an amazing moment. And I just had a chance to reflect on my own family when I was there. So on my last trip to Amsterdam, I tried to make some images that might feel like they were of the period of the 40s, which was really complicated because there were a lot of new things. I think I'm going to get rid of this and put in something else. That's something that's bothering me. This one is not in the show because I feel like it doesn't quite work. These bridges are amazing, and I stayed right around the corner from here. This is called a skinny bridge. And as you can see, I was taking my life in my hands with that motorcycle kind of coming towards me. So I tried using infrared at night. I didn't think I could do it, but it actually did work. And as you can see, what I did was I slowed my shutter way down and tried to just get this feeling of, during this period, the winters were just freezing cold, and getting this feeling of isolation and loneliness, and so this could have been right before they closed everything down, and people, had to flee for their lives. So the area around the zoo, it was just so fabulous. It was so beautiful. All these gorgeous parks. These were places where. Am I going over my time? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a few minutes.
Yeah.
Is everybody go over that? Okay. So they were places where people could, the Jewish population. This is where they lived. They could go and enjoy the parks, and of course, after a while, they could not do that anymore. So I only have like three left here. So these are called stumbling stones. We just had a conversation about these. In front of houses where Jewish families were taken, they had these memorials in the pavement that tell you about the people who lived there. So these are the Kattenbergs. Tells you their date of birth, and also it says murdered 5/21/1943. That's my birthday. Not 43, but 49. But that is my birthday. It was very kind of, creepy. But I was fascinated by these houses that people are living in, knowing that people were taken under horrific circumstances. And, they still have like their plants and their little tchotchkes and all these other things and living a normal life. I mean, you can't, how can you not? You have to. But, so there's a really quick, interesting story. So I took this picture, and then I took this picture. Now, this says Rachel Kroll Kattenberg. This is Meyer Kattenberg. I didn't realize when I took these pictures that the first one is the parents and the other one is the daughter and her husband. They're on they're on completely different streets. I had no idea, and it wasn't until I went on the site called Yude's Monument that I discovered that. And one quick thing: it's almost impossible to shoot architecture in Amsterdam because everything is sinking, so you cannot use the level in your camera. But I want to show you, just to make this a little bit more personal, here is Rachel Kattenberg. Rachel Kattenberg, her husband, I guess these were a niece and nephew, they all perished. 1 block from the zoo. 1 block from the zoo. And I have photographed that house every single time I've been in Amsterdam, and never was able to do it. I finally got it. And then, I looked up the names on the stumbling stones, and there they are. So, and here is what I found on the Yude's Monument. And this is, my name is Phyllis Berger, and this is my uncle, who died in Buchenwald, where they had the zoo. So, it's interesting. So hopefully he got to work in the zoo, because if he did, he had a little bit more food. So that is. You know what? I just want to, if you don't mind, I'm going to read one more quick poem, but I need to go back to the beginning if I can do that. I'm not sure that I can. I'm almost there. Oh, okay. Okay. I call this My Power. And it really speaks to the fact that anyone could have toppled this entire thing. It's about a groundskeeper. My hands are gnarled like roots of trees, their purple veins tributaries running toward my fingers. I no longer blister, my skin so rough and thick, I pull each weed on creaking knees, inching along flower beds when thought repeats. I know your hiding places. I know your hiding places. I am the agent of life if I am silent, the angel of death if I speak. When I go home at night to meager fare, there are still warm arms to hold me. I think of you asleep and safe for one more night. It is my promise to keep. So I know we're out of time, so yeah, just a question.
This is amazing, and I can't wait for your meeting. Do you have any plans to take it to Amsterdam and show it at the zoo?
I'm hoping that'll happen. You might have noticed that, I had to make nighttime photos. I had to create them because I couldn't be at the zoo at night. That's the one thing that I feel is really, really missing, and I do want to go back. And I'm in constant contact with a zoo historian. So, after the show and I have the show photographed and everything, I'm gonna see if there's a way to bring it to Amsterdam. Yeah.
I just want to to say I love your presentation. I
Thank
can
you.
tell that you have a personal connection to it,
I do.
and you can feel it and see it, not only in your work but also in your poetry.
Well, thank you.
Great work.
Thank you so much.
What did you use to take your IR pictures?
I had it's an old camera, a very old camera. It's not mirrorless or anything. It's about, I don't know, 15 years old now. I had a camera converted to infrared. They just put in a different sensor.
So it's a digital, it's not a film.
It's digital, right? Yeah. With film, you can't see well. You can't see what you're doing. So yeah. So it's digital. Yeah.
How many trips did it take you to get all of them?
I have been there 4 times, and I don't feel finished yet.
Yeah.
So, and you're just seeing a smattering tonight. There are 15 image and text pieces, and then another 15 images of what it's called the Yodenberg and the Plantage, the area around the zoo.
So you said some of the students from Goucher is working on this project. What did
They
get
are.
Mm-hmm.
them involved in this particular project? What inspired them to want to be a part of it?
Well, I know the director of art history at Goucher, and I just like sent her a little something, and she said, "Oh my gosh, we want to get our students involved." So the students are actually designing the exhibition, and there were numerous artists who were inspired by the zoo, and some were underdikers, so who hid in the zoo. And there are artists throughout the zoo, so they are researching the artists who were in the zoo, and their professor is, guiding them through all the history of the zoo. And so that will be kind of a foundation. They'll have an area in the exhibition for their work, telling the stories of the artists who lived in Amsterdam.
I did have one last question.
Sure.
When someone died in the zoo, what happened to them? From a burial standpoint.
They all
Because
survived.
They couldn't stay there, right? Oh, they all survived?
They all survived.
Okay.
No, but when an animal died, it was a good thing because everybody got to have a little bit of soup.
Maybe the gorillas, yappy.
Right, yappy. So, okay, well, thank you so much.